welcome. You are watching the Newshour Agenda, India's most loved primetime show at 10. I'm Padmaja Joshi. Today the BJP took to the streets across West Bengal against what they called is a rampant reign of corruption by the state government, or at least people associated with it. But soon this Nabanna Abhiyan turned into a bloody political clash with scores of BJP workers and cops left bloodied. It started with the BJP leaders being detained when they were marching to the state secretariat in Kolkata. Police also intercepted several workers of the BJP at various points and eventually used tear gas and water cannons to disperse the crowd. But it didn't end there. The BJP alleged that excessive and illegal force was used on its workers and leaders, a crackdown on any kind of opposition and dissent. A crackdown that is fast turning West Bengal into a North Korea of sorts.
They were using water cannon, they were using those tear gas, and these TMC people over there, wearing the uniform of police, these are TMC cadres. They were throwing stones from the ceiling, from the terrace.
কয়েকশো পার্টি কার্যকর্তাকে বিভিন্ন থানায় আটকে রাখা হয়েছে এবং আমাদের প্রায় 200 থেকে 250 কর্মী আহত হয়েছেন, তার মধ্যে 50 জনের বেশি বিভিন্ন হসপিটালে অ্যাডমিশন আছে। আমরা এটা নিয়ে লড়াই করব। আর আমাদের সভাপতি রিলিজ হওয়ার পরে আমি এবং আমাদের মাননীয় সভাপতি 6 নম্বর মুরলী লেন থেকে আমরা রাহুল দাও থাকবেন, আমরা সেখানে প্রেস কনফারেন্স করে পার্টির পরবর্তী কর্মসূচি জানাবো।
The kind of situation no one can imagine in any part of India, because the police is throwing the bomb on the BJP supporters. It is really unique feature of the West Bengal police. Police tried to stop us, that's why our mob got violent. Otherwise it was a peaceful demonstration.
The Trinamool Congress, though, had a very different version of the story. They pointed out that cops were attacked by members of the BJP, public property was targeted, there was arson and stone pelting that not just left several people injured but also saw several vehicles, including a police jeep, set on fire. So is the protest today a crackdown on dissent, or a protest against corruption that went completely out of hand?
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining us now on the debate, we have Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, Arindam Bhattacharya, spokesperson of the West Bengal BJP, but more importantly somebody who was a part of the protest and has been injured in it, Saket Gokhale, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress, Siddhartha Das, political analyst. I'll start with you, Sanju Verma, because today we saw images of a police van being set on fire, of stone pelting taking place. This surely cannot be advocated as a way of protest by the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Padmaja, let me, be absolutely forthright and candid. The Bharatiya Janata Party was not indulging in arson, looting or violence as is being made out to be by certain vested elements within the Trinamool Congress, and I will tell you why. If you look at the track record of the Trinamool Congress, because I always believe the proof of the pudding is in the eating. When the post-poll violence happened in 2021, Mamata Banerjee said nothing happened, nobody was killed. We all know of the horrific story of Abhijit Sarkar, whose body was there in the mortuary for 6 months because he was brutally hacked, and there was not even scant remorse expressed by the Chief Minister or her dispensation. When the Birbhum massacre happened earlier...
let's talk about the present. Let's talk about today. We have spoken of Birbhum, we have spoken of Sital Kuchi, we've spoken of all of that. Let's talk about Howrah today.
Padmaja, let me finish. Fine. I will, go by what you say in terms of limiting the discussion to today. I want to ask one very categorical question to the top TMC dispensation through your program. The police started picking up people, lathi charging them, raining them with water cannons. And where was this happening? This was happening outside the Bolpur railway station. This was happening outside the Raniganj railway station. And Padmaja, this was happening outside the Durgapur railway station. Now all these places that I mentioned, be it Durgapur, Bolpur or Raniganj, where are they? They are either 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers or 50 kilometers from the so-called key site of the supposed protest at the secretariat. Why were you picking up people 20 kilometers ahead in front of the railway stations when they were just boarding trains to be a part?
But you still haven't answered my question. I will ask that to the Trinamool Congress, but that still doesn't excuse the burning of public property by your party.
Padmaja, let me finish. My limited point is this. If you catch somebody indulging in violence, I have been on, I think, a zillion debates, and I've always said one thing. No matter which party, ruling or opposition, BJP or otherwise, there is no room for vigilantism or violence coming from any quarter. I say this without ifs or buts. But at the same time, if you're picking up innocent people outside Bolpur railway station when they're boarding a train, are you assuming that they will indulge in arson looting?
Okay. So the BJP's theory is that this was an inside job. They have not done it. Any arson or stone pelting is only to put the focus back on them, as opposed to the police actively stopping their cadre Saket Gokhale from reaching for a democratic protest.
See, Padmaja, first it's very funny when the BJP spokesperson says, I will condemn violence without any ifs and buts, but so and so happened. You know, that sounds like a but. It's this weird conspiracy theory we've been hearing since the afternoon, that somehow these cadres were not BJP workers, that the BJP did not indulge in violence. Your channel itself, in fact, you guys had a great coverage today. Your channel had reporters on the ground, which showed the BJP setting up police jeep on fire.
Speaker is on, your voice is echoing constantly. Go on, we'll fix it. Yes, go on, please.
Hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can be heard. Go on.
Yeah, so it was very clear today as to who was indulging in violence. Now the question of police detaining people or people being stopped from going to a protest, look, 144 was in place. Going up to the secretariat, you cannot do that in any state because it's a high security zone. Forget West Bengal, you cannot, today I cannot even in Delhi go and protest outside the Prime Minister's office also. That's not allowed. You have to go to Jantar Mantar. I do not understand this bizarre reasoning that because the police stopped or police prohibited people from going for a protest, that gives them the license to fracture. Devjit Chatterjee, Assistant Commissioner of Police, his hand has been fractured. There is 2 police personnel in the hospital.
It gives them the right to... is fighting for her life at a city hospital.
Do not interrupt me, I did not interrupt you.
Das Gupta was brutally attacked. Did you see how ex-Rajya Sabha MP of BJP, Sopan Das Gupta, was brutally attacked?
I did not interrupt.
Okay, one by one, please. One by one. Sanju Verma, answer his question. You have an Assistant Commissioner of Police. His right hand is fractured. He is in hospital. There are 54 police men and women who are currently in hospital. One of them is in the ICU. One of them is serious. If this was a tit for tat, then basically it is a street war. Neither side can claim to have a higher moral ground on this. Sanju Verma, answer the specific question. We have the X-ray report of the Assistant Commissioner of Police. Somebody has broken his hand. Who is it? Or has he broken his own hand?
Padmaja, let me be very clear. I will not allow this debate, at least from my end. You are the anchor. You are steering the debate to, be on the defensive today. Because today, clearly, if you have even an iota of common sense, and I'm saying this to people like Saket Gokhale, did you see Sopan Das Gupta? Did you see the condition of Agnimitra Paul? Did you see the condition of Suvendu Adhikari? Did you see how they were brutally being beaten up and packed into police buses? And you still have the gall and the audacity to sit here and say कि हमने तो कुछ नहीं किया. I want to ask one thing. Forget what Sanju Verma is saying and what Saket Gokhale is saying. I agree with Saket Gokhale. Section 144 is imposed in and around the secretariat. You cannot go there. It's a high security zone. Point granted. Tell me one thing. Is outside Bolpur railway station, 30 kilometers from the secretariat, was there section 144? No. Was there section 144 outside Raniganj railway station where your police engaged in brutality? No. Was there section 144 outside Durgapur railway station where you engaged in brutality? No. So don't come here and give wrong facts.
Answer this, Saket Gokhale.
Hallucinating.
Why was there an ad hoc indiscriminate picking up of people from Howrah railway station, from across different points when they were only trying to peacefully come to Kolkata.
There was no indiscriminate picking up. There were barricades that were put up. In fact, you would have seen videos today of BJP workers going, because the Howrah bridge was closed, they were sitting in boats and going to the other side. There was no indiscriminate picking up of people.
Actually, today in the Calcutta High Court, the petitioner, which is the BJP, has submitted that they have CCTV footage from the railway platform that shows the Kolkata police picked up their workers.
But Padmaja, I have only one question, and I'm going to come back to just that. Only one question. Stopping people, preventing people, does anything justify setting vehicles on fire? They were trying to put a burnt napkin inside the fuel tank of a police jeep. Does anything justify beating up police personnel and fracturing their hands?
This is a non-negotiable question as it is. Nothing can condone attacking public property, attacking a public servant or engaging in violence. But that still doesn't answer the question, was there an extra constitutional attempt to try and stop a rally which was so far peaceful? If people are trying to board a train at the Howrah railway station, why were they stopped by the West Bengal police?
Extra constitutional. Look, here's the simple thing. Why were, the opposition stopped from going to Hathras, for example? Now, these questions, look, maintenance of law and order is the job of the police. The police did what they did in their wisdom in order to make sure that there is no... Look, this is the city. Durga Puja is coming up in 2 weeks. The BJP was going out tomorrow. What if riots had been incited? What if these guys would have done something leading to a law and order situation? There is a big festival coming in 2 weeks.
So then let me ask you a counter. You're saying, just a second, going by your own logic and your reasoning right now, you're saying what the police did in Hathras by stopping your delegation was the right thing. Because just like you apprehended riots today in Kolkata, the Uttar Pradesh police apprehended riots in Hathras.
I did not say that, Padmaja. You heard what I said after that. I said the police exercise Durga Puja is 2 weeks away. The police exercise the legal powers that they have to pretend a law and order situation from going out of hand. We have a big festival happening in 2 weeks.
Large-scale brutality without provocation. Was the police provoked by peaceful protesters outside Bolpur? No.
Simple question is this.
Was the police provoked outside Durgapur railway station? No. Was the police provoked outside Raniganj railway station? No. Despite
Look, let me put one last sentence here before you go to the other
Okay. To your specific question, Saket Gokhale, I think a person better placed is the only one among all of us who was actually present on the spot, Arindam Bhattacharya. Arindam Bhattacharya, why did you get into a confrontation with the police which has now resulted in you sitting here with your head bandaged and some policemen sitting in hospital with their head bandaged?
I'll first of all like to ask a question that whether the West Bengal government provides shoes to the policemen or they provide slippers to the policemen. Because we have seen policemen, because how do we recognize policemen? By their uniforms. Men in uniform, but they were putting up slippers, they were hurling stones. So this is what we have witnessed today, and all these documents will be submitted in the court along with the CCTV footages that we have with us. So I want to ask the person who is representing the government and the TMC whether they provide slippers to the police personnel or they provide shoes. Because we have witnessed...
So wait a second, your insinuation is that civilians dressed as policemen were attacking you. Is that your insinuation?
No, I don't know whether they were policemen or just TMC cadres in the police uniform.
Saket Gokhale.
So that gives an answer to who has touched the police vehicle.
Great. Let me answer this. This conspiracy theory, now that the BJP has nothing to go by, now that, in the morning they were thinking that, oh, we're going to turn this into this, we're going to show that, oh, the TMC is cornered. And now that they've been exposed to the violence they've caused, they've come to a pathetic attempt to make conspiracy theories now. That tomorrow they're going to say this was a CIA plot against the country. Look, I have a very simple thing to put forward, Padmaja. This protest they first organized on the 7th of September. There was not enough of a crowd that turned up. It was very thanda affair. it. So they decided to postpone it to today. Their protest supposedly was against alleged corruption. Now one minute, let me finish. It is the enforcement directorate which comes under the union government, the BJP government, that is probing all these cases. What was the point of this protest today? This was just a pre-planned idea that before Durga Puja we'll go out, we'll cause some violence, we'll try and spark off a riots here and there. So then we get a chance to blame the West Bengal government. The police acted very well and the police made sure that law and order is kept under control, and the police have done their job brilliantly today by not letting the situation go out of hand.
Okay, but Saket Gokhale, I still don't understand this double standard when it comes to, say, Jamia. When there was a lathi charge on a crowd that was pelting stones at the police in Delhi, your party chief called it a crackdown on dissent. When your delegation tried to go to Hathras and it was stopped by the Uttar Pradesh police, apprehending a law and order situation, it was decried as a crackdown on dissent. And today when there is a march by the BJP and your police cracks down on it, you say this is the best thing to have done and it is a great job that they have done.
Let me answer that.
So either Jamia was a good job and Hathras was a good job, or this is a crackdown on dissent.
Let me answer that. This is not my response, by the way. Hathras, a journalist called Siddiq Kappan was picked up by the UP police on his way to Hathras. The Supreme Court itself has said that the government is scared of criticism. The government is scared of criticism. The Supreme Court has said. There is a stamp from the Court. The Supreme Court said the Chief Justice of India has said that he was exercising his right as a journalist. That is what he called being scared of dissent. They can come very well, sit on a protest. Look, we draw the line at destruction of public property. The Prime Minister calls protesters as Andolan Jeevis, then his own party should follow the norms of peaceful protest. If you break the law in West Bengal, the police will deal with you. If you act like a hooligan, the police will deal with you as a hooligan.
Padmaja,
okay.
Please come in.
All right, Sanju Verma, come in.
Yes. Padmaja, Saket Gokhale is right. If you act like a hooligan, the law of the land should take its course and the police should do what they need to do. But in this case, who was the hooligan? Was it the ordinary BJP karyakarta? Was it the ordinary BJP sympathizer who wanted to board a train to be a part of a peaceful protest? The policemen cannot act like vigilantes. And under Mamata Banerjee, who's not only the CM but the Home Minister and has the responsibility of law and order, let me tell you today, she failed as a CM, she failed as a Home Minister, she failed to control the law and order machinery. And I want to ask you, will she resign? Is she still hurting from the defeat at the hands of Suvendu Adhikari? Suvendu Adhikari was not even protesting when he was picked up and randomly put into that police vehicle. So please stop giving here, these pearls of wisdom about how great your dispensation is. Draconian, autocratic is what Mamata Banerjee is. Simply wearing a white sari and a Hawaii chappal does not make you, somebody who does inclusive politics.
Okay. This is not about Mamata Banerjee and her sense of dressing, but since you spoke of Siddiq Kappan, let me also remind you, Saket Gokhale, and you spoke of courts and what they have said. The Allahabad High Court, while denying bail to the self-same Siddiq Kappan while he was headed to Hathras, said it has come up in the investigation that the applicant had no work in Hathras. The state machinery was on tenterhooks owing to the tension prevailing due to various types of information being viral against all forums of the media, including the internet. The said trip of the applicant with co-accused who does not belong to media fraternity is a crucial circumstance going against him. So that is what the Allahabad High Court said about Siddiq Kappan. The UP government in an affidavit has spoke of how he belongs to the PFI, but anyway, he remains.
Are you saying the High Court is above the Supreme Court? That is contempt.
Siddiq,
that is not contempt, first of all, and I never said that. I have said no such thing, and that is not contempt. I am just quoting to you what the Allahabad High Court has said. You are talking about a separate case in which this was said altogether, but anyway, this is not about Siddiq Kappan. This is not about Siddiq Kappan. It is about apples and apples of police action and the reasoning behind it and how it is held to different standards. I will give you another example, sir. I will give you another example. While having said that there is no excuse for damaging public property and attacking public servants, let me remind you, just a second, let me bring in Siddhabrata Das because he's been waiting very patiently.
Double standards.
Mr. Gokhale, I will come back to you and you will reply, but Siddhabrata Das has been waiting.
There are no ifs and buts.
There are no ifs and buts.
There are no. So you can't try to now very smartly turn this and try and say if but. If it's unconditional, it's unconditional.
It is unconditional, but that still doesn't condone breaking people's heads. If we are talking about cops, 54 of them who are in hospital, there is also an ex-mayor who is lying in the ICU. She cannot be forgotten either. There is no excuse for beating a woman to pulp either.
Again, if you're a part of a mob, the police is not hunting for individuals. If you get injured in a lathi charge, if you're a part of a mob, and let's put it this way, I am very grateful today. I'm very grateful that the Kolkata police did not resort to firing despite all provocations. The Kolkata police used lathi charge, used peaceful, docile methods like water cannons. The BJP tried to provoke, but unlike UP or unlike what happened in Sitalkuchi, the Bengal police did not resort to firing or any kind of lethal force today.
Okay, this is very important. Arindam Bhattacharya, just a second, Arindam Bhattacharya, Saket Gokhale is saying you should consider yourselves lucky that the police did not open fire.
But they were hurling bombs. Today we have the footage.
Seriously,
I am saying this responsibly on your channel. It is a handiwork of the BJP, your TMC workers and the police. Today they have resorted to this barbarism together, and it was a pre-planned attack on the BJP workers.
Pre-planned attack? So the ones who burnt police vehicles, the ones who went and attacked policemen, my goodness, I cannot
you were picking up people from Alipurduar, from Siliguri, from Jalpaiguri. Your police was picking up BJP workers from yesterday.
One day, Padmaja.
From yesterday, you had a very well thought out plan.
Okay, one at a time, please, one at a time. One at a time. Let Mr. Bhattacharya finish what he is saying, then Saket Gokhale, please. Nobody will be heard and nobody will make sense. Mr. Bhattacharya, finish your point in 10 seconds and Saket Gokhale will respond. Yes.
From yesterday, they were picking up BJP workers from different quarters, which was 500 kilometers away from Kolkata. In Coach Bihar, in Alipurduar, in Siliguri, in Jalpaiguri, in Durgapur, in Raniganj, they were picking up the BJP workers yesterday. And what they did, they prepared some workers, TMC workers, to mingle with the police. That's why they were wearing those slippers. They were hurling stones, they were hurling bombs. They have touched the properties also. They have burned public property also, so that persons like Mr. Gokhale can sit on the TV channels and defend it on the next day.
Charge number one, that if you're saying today the police action is in retaliation to BJP's hooliganism, that doesn't wash simply because the BJP workers were being picked up since yesterday when they hadn't even started the march. And second, the more serious charge that there were your cadre mingling with the police hurling bombs. Saket Gokhale.
You know, Padmaja, my request in public interest today, at least for the sake of this country, would be that I understand your channel has a duty towards the BJP, but let's not condone what is not condonable.
Sir, my channel has absolutely no duty towards anyone. You get a platform on our channel, which we are not obliged to give. We give it in the interest of the country. So please, let's not make this personal, but go on, make your point.
In terms of Padmaja, let me not remind anybody of their obligations, but the fact that you giving us...
But you just did. About us having a duty to the BJP, I assure you most fervently we don't, but go on.
Sure. Then I'm saying act that way is what I'm requesting your channel to do. Do not...
You don't have to request. You are represented here adequately in the interest of the country.
I can play
Thanks for your concern.
Your
go
channel
on.
Reacting very differently when protests happen conducted by some other group versus when protests are done by the BJP. To answer these conspiracy theories, by the way, I'm going to say only one sentence here.
do not insult police personnel.
These theories
Anybody
are
can come up
backed
with
by
any
CCTV
conspiracy
footage.
theory saying that they were throwing bombs and TMC cadre were throwing bombs and absolute garbage like that. I'll put it very simply. I will request the BJP. I have a request for the BJP. Next time, please don't go and attack innocent police personnel. Why don't you come and attack TMC cadres if that's what you want to do? Why take your anger out on the police personnel who are only doing their job? These are poor police personnel who are doing their job for the country. Don't attack them. No, if you want to come and attack us.
They are not doing the job for the country. They are doing the job for the TMC.
Attack us if you want to attack.
Okay, Siddhartha Das, let me now remind you of something that happened not too long ago. Just about 3 to 4 months ago, in June, there were protests in West Bengal, in fact in Howrah, the same area where we saw the protest today. This was against the supposed comments which had been made against the Prophet. For 2 hours in Howrah, 2 hours, road was blocked by protesters. The police didn't do a thing. The Chief Minister of West Bengal said, I request these people, why are you inconveniencing people here? Go and stop the road in Delhi. Now it seems very strange that suddenly the whole concern about people being inconvenienced, road being blocked, law and order being disrupted has arisen today, as it should. Where was the same concern in the month of June? When the same roads were blocked, when there was violent stone pelting, and let me quote to you from a report, for hours altogether, the police pleaded with the protesters while having stones being pelted on them. This was a violent mob. It was beating up the same police. It was chakka jamming the same road. No one moved a finger. Why?
Tell me one thing. In June, the incident you were mentioning, were they beating up police,
Yes.
police vans?
Yes, they were. They were beating up the police. They were pelting stones at the police.
I know, I was there. Please. I am a resident of the state. I know the event. Please tell me, were they going to Nabanna Obija? Nabanna is the state secretariat. Blocking a road and going to...
So blocking a road and pelting stones is okay as long as you don't go to Nabanna.
Peaceful agitation.
Peaceful agitation? They were pelting stones, sir.
Agitation. No. Whosoever has done that, police have taken action. Go and check the facts.
I need to come in now.
Many people were arrested, many people were booked. But in this case, BJP has the sole intention of creating anarchism today. They had the sole intention of creating anarchism. They brought people from outside the state. Crores of rupees were invested of this event. People from outside the state were brought. Outside the state was brought 2-3 days prior to the event for the sole intention of creating anarchism in Kolkata.
Okay.
It is the state secretariat under attack. It is not a street. It is not a street. That's what people were protesting. They were going to attack the state secretariat.
Okay, they were going to attack the state secretariat, which is why exemplary action was taken. Sanju Verma.
I have the last person to
Okay, this man, Padmaja, I can't shout over him.
Okay, Sanju Verma, had somebody started marching to parliament, you would have also lathi charged them.
Let me please. Let me be very clear. When there was an insurrection, more than a year back at the Red Fort, with some people trying to disparage the tricolor, we had Mamata Banerjee coming out in full support of so-called Andolan GVs. So let's not sit here and be holier than thou. I want to ask a simple question. Kunal Ghosh today made a very interesting statement, which is in absolute contrast to what TMC panelists have been saying in debate after debate, and I've done quite a few since the evening. Kunal Ghosh, your General Secretary and National Spokesperson of Trinamool Congress, has on record stated... No, don't interrupt me now. You're getting rattled. Padmaja, let me finish.
Okay, 30 seconds, let her respond. You will get your time to respond. Go on.
What did Kunal Ghosh say? He said actually the people who were beaten up and who were attacked were not BJP workers. These were media people, and our policemen were in plain clothes and they were also involved in the arson and looting. So we also need to see whether our own policemen were involved. This is your Kunal Ghosh, General Secretary, making the statement. What do you have to say to that? This is in sharp contrast to what you are saying. Kunal Ghosh is actually saying police was involved and police was doing more than what it needed to do. Police was beating up innocent people and media men, and BJP karyakartas were not involved. Kunal Ghosh has made this statement in vernacular media.
Let him respond.
Look, this is what happens when you try to spin a yarn. Kunal Ghosh is not the national spokesperson, I'm the national spokesperson. Sanju Verma is referring to Kunal Ghosh as the TMC's national spokesperson. No, he is not. I'm the national spokesperson and I'm sitting right here. And I'm making the statements that I'm making. So when people try to spin a yarn like this, it's quite funny because they're bound to then not even
he's
get
a member of your party. Has he said this? How do you explain what he has said?
Sorry, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you.
How do you explain how this member of your party has responded?
I don't know what comments is she talking about. I haven't seen anything like that by Kunal.
Oh really? You are illiterate and uneducated, or you're pretending to be so? I fail to fathom. This statement of his has gone viral in the local
As this person, Sanju Verma, I'm sorry I don't have to listen to an idiot like this and make a personal attack.
Again, please, no personal comments. Let's watch our language. I think it's a good time to end it over here. Let's say this again right at the end. While making it very clear that there is no room in our country for attacking public property or people who are in public service, one also has to look at whether this was an attempt to try and nip in the bud any voice of the opposition that is being raised in the state of West Bengal. Because this is not only the BJP. Mind you, this has happened earlier to the left as well. It has happened to the Congress as well. Is this okay? Is this okay in the name of law and order? We leave it to your judgment. Thanks very much, all gentlemen. Sanju Verma for joining me.